Time for FOMO, discussing the crypto space. Alex Coffey, Jenny Horne, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, Bitcoin futures, all the rest. There's so many names that kind of make up this space now in publicly traded markets. Not even to get into the fact that there's all the spot products, the actual digital assets themselves. Let's start with /BTC, the Bitcoin future, making a nice little intraday recovery. It's down about 1.7%, but it's had a little bit of a gully, I guess you could say. It's down about 10% over the last week after this really impressive start to the year and run that it's had over the last 12 months or so.
Yeah, and I will say that it almost feels like this pullback seems not necessarily healthy, but like necessary, because we had risen so substantially so quickly, as we just discussed when looking at super microcomputer. But completely different conversation here. A lot of enthusiasm has been so closely linked to the regulation that has been positive for the space, no doubt, but the ways in which it's benefited some of these individual stock names has been astounding. I mean, so in real time, while some of these names were lower on the session earlier today, along with the price of Bitcoin futures, we're recovering a bit here. We're down a little less than 3% in Coinbase. MicroStrategy selling off a bit more, though, but it has rallied more substantially this year. We've rallied about 120% over the last month prior to today's open, so substantial gains. They did recently announce this pricing of their convertible senior notes offering. So they did announce this pricing of around $525 million worth of around 0.875% of their convertible senior notes that are due out in 2030. They also said they plan to grant the initial purchasers this 13-day option to purchase an additional around $79 million worth of the notes. But that offering was expected to close on Monday. So we've seen some degree of pressure, but overall they plan to really use these proceeds to buy more Bitcoin, about 515 million worth. So I think that that's a strategy that has seemingly worked out well for them. Of course, nothing has helped more than some of the overall strength of Bitcoin. As we talk about the correlations, the way actually Coinbase trades less strongly with correlation to Bitcoin. I can't say there's obviously no correlation, because there is. It just isn't as strong as historical trends would tell you. But overall, analysts are still fairly mixed on some of these names, I think, because of the substantial run-up we've seen. Looking at Coinbase, it's actually a bit less favorable than MicroStrategy. We have 23 analysts, 9 buys, 10 holds, 4 sells. And MicroStrategy, we have 4 analysts, which all 4 are buys. But I mean, that doesn't exactly, to me, illustrate, like when you're comparing 23 analysts versus 4, just a smaller sample size. But Coinbase right now, actually, the average price target is 190, so that implies some downside from where we closed Monday. So they've also benefited from the recent crypto rally. Stock has risen 25% roughly year to date. But I think when you're looking at a name like MicroStrategy versus Coinbase, Coinbase is at least more stable. I know we're down 3% today, but MicroStrategy is like all over the board.
Yeah, I don't know that they're super comparable. They're in the same space, right? Coinbase is sort of the business of cryptocurrency or digital assets or Bitcoin, or however we want to determine the space and what we want to use for it. You know, they're providing access to these products, and they benefit from there being excitement by them, right? More excitement means more volumes. I'm sure they have, potentially some inventories as well of some of these different items and other ways to make revenues within the space. I've never pretended to be a digital asset expert. There's so much, going on within this space that makes these things a little bit more nuanced than, traditional securities. MicroStrategy, though, is like a levered Bitcoin play. I don't think we ever would be talking about MicroStrategy because of its core business. Although it does have, of course, a business beyond just owning and holding Bitcoin on its balance sheet, but it's literally issuing convertible debt to buy Bitcoin. So this is, we're borrowing money if you're MicroStrategy to buy Bitcoin. So to me, this is levered Bitcoin play. It explains why it's more volatile than even Bitcoin itself, because they have debt outstanding that they've used those proceeds to buy Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin goes down, they're going to be underwater on those positions. And of course, they have outstanding debt that basically they're going to be obligated to pay back. And potentially the money that they used, they would have lost on Bitcoin. So it makes sense that it's going to have more kind of swings associated with it. But it's a tough stock to trade with that high price tag when you look at kind of the options world and things associated with it. So Just depends on kind of what your risk tolerance is and what you're looking for in a product.
Yeah, and I would say that, well, we do see, like, I mean, definitely it's heightened trading volume interest in both of these names, where Coinbase is convinced. I mean, I at least like that they're able to, like, post consistent earnings. Like, you see fundamental strength from the recent run-up we've seen in Bitcoin. You also see that, unfortunately, on the other side of the coin, that they are facing some still regulatory scrutiny from the SEC. So that's also a pretty near-term risk. But if you're a crypto believer and you're an optimist in this space, you'd have to think that one of the overall, I mean, basically stocks that's in so many of these various funds now, I believe it's in like 10 of the 11 of these spot Bitcoin ETFs, is then seen as at least somewhat of a proxy. I know the correlation is all over the place, but hey, we're lower today in Bitcoin, we're lower in Coinbase. It seems like that's usually the case.